Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel, you juicy human beings. Not my best. Hope you're well. I hope you're excited about the new season. Hope all hope hasn't gone. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to have a look at every single team in the Premier League, go through the opening weekend's matches in two parts. So there'll be a new part coming out tomorrow. And we'll put forward some sort of knee-jerk assumptions of what we've seen tactically and what we should maybe keep an eye out moving forward. If you're new to the channel, please do consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out. And let's put a like target on this one, 4,000, because the Fallout's back. If you don't know what the Fallout is, keep watching, you're going to love it. Right, guys, let's get into it. First game, Fulham versus Liverpool. And Fulham, in terms of knee-jerk assumptions, they are going to be pressing monsters this year. Let's have a look at their average positions first and foremost. And look, Bobby Reed, number 14, kind of had to come over to the other side. But the first thing I think to say in terms of a knee-jerk assumption for Fulham is, one, pressing monsters. Fulham made 153 pressing actions against Liverpool. That is incredibly brave. Last year, and we'll keep an eye on this on the Fallout, it was 135 per game. So to do this against Liverpool in particular is really, really brave, and 51 of those were successful as well. Palhinha is going to be so important. Palhinha is the number 26 in this side, and I think we'll see this a few times actually in this episode, or certainly over the next two episodes, is that guy 26 here, Palhinha, but generally that midfielder that can provide that sort of starting point to allow for structure. And I think what you see with that a lot of the time is the fact that you then have a lovely sort of circle around him. Bobby Reed, as I say, had to sort of change position. So, but he would have been a lot wider. But for me personally, that often comes from a midfielder who is kind of press-proof, who can be that linchpin, who can get on the ball as well. In the midfield third alone, both Harrison Reed, who played alongside Palhinha, provided 23 pressures between them, which was a huge part of this game because Fabinho was completely isolated. He couldn't get the ball away because of that, again, that really brave way of playing. And if we wipe this all away, what you can see is that actually you don't normally see a newly promoted side against Liverpool being this brave in terms of their press, but it was really well structured. And also Fabinho was completely stopped, wasn't able to get the ball to Henderson, wasn't able to get the ball to Thiago as well. And a stat that shows this is the fact that last season Fabinho averaged 5.64 passes into the final third, so getting on the ball, playing into the final third. However, in this match he only made one. And of course we've got to talk about Mitrovic. Mitrovic is Premier League quality, so dominant in the air here, won 11 of his 14 aerial duels, bullied Trent at the back post, which is a tactic that teams offer. And what I really liked actually about him as well is that he was able to sort of suck in different players of the opposition on this left-hand side. You can see with his heat map focusing on the right-hand side as Fulham attack. And if you think of Tete up there as well, he was so further forward than normal, as you can see here. But what I really liked, and what we should also keep an eye out, is Andreas Pereira. We've all got him in our FPL teams, but he stayed away from that. So Mitrovic sucks in some players, they switched the ball over to Pereira, and he could do some damage for Fulham this year and give him a huge chance of staying up. On to Liverpool, who will be so disappointed to not get the 3 points in this game, because I think it's always that feeling for Liverpool fans. If they drop any points, it's like, well, that's the title race gone. That's really harsh stuff. But there were some positive elements from it. First of all, of course, so many questions about Darwin Núñez. Let's have a look at the average positions. First of all, with Firmino in the team, but then with Darwin Núñez, his inclusion made a massive difference. He causes absolute chaos, and you can see it very clearly here that he makes the pitch bigger. He drives the team forward vertically, and it allows them to be a much sort of better version of themselves, actually, or more effective. They're certainly going to be closer to the penalty area at times. Because, I mean, yes, we know how Liverpool play with Firmino in the side, but I wonder, without that dynamism from Mane, Diaz will always kind of come back onto his right-hand side and at times look to make those shots. Look, he hit the post. That's great. But when Darwin Núñez came into the team, look at the difference. He is pushing the team forward, and with the quality that they have with the likes of Van Dijk, you're able to play those vertical passes quickly. I think he would cause so much chaos, and did cause so much chaos. And so once again, we must bow down to the god of Klopp. He does know what he's doing. The second thing to talk about, and here is the big knee-jerk assumption, might be wrong on this one, Harvey Elliott is key. Harvey Elliott is key to Liverpool. Thiago, of course, limped off. And the difference in terms of enabling Mohamed Salah, and again, with Nunez on the pitch, was so different. Because when you see where Henderson was playing in this game, look at his heat map, that's exactly where you expect Henderson to be. But the difference is Harvey Elliott, when he came onto the pitch, he was able to hold a little bit wider. And when he holds that little bit wider, it allows Salah to get further forward, but also to play more centrally as well. Trent actually can come a bit more narrow as well. And so I think he really did facilitate Mohamed Salah in a much better way. It might feel a little bit gung-ho to play Thiago and Harvey Elliott in the same side. But now with Thiago out for a couple of weeks, Harvey Elliott has to start because he's just such a fantastic player. And I think those three, when you talk about the evolution of Liverpool, maybe it's time for him to really put down a marker and be a starter for Liverpool this year. Next up, Tottenham. And Tottenham could score 100 goals. Let's say it, knee-jerk. They are going to score so many goals this year because the attacking attitude of this team is just really enjoyable to see. Real cut and thrust to them. Let's have a look at those average positions. Here's the thing, we're talking about with Palhinha. Same goes for someone like Harry Kane. And actually just generally, they are very well drilled, and average positions will always show that. They'll show that, there's a structure to the team, a confidence to the team, because you have answers that allow you to retain a certain position. Now, we saw this a lot last year with the two in the double pivot here, and the in terms of the back three, those back three sort of staying wide and getting on. But Harry Kane, as I was saying, that player, that linchpin that then creates essentially a circle around him, it's amazing, really, when it comes to Harry Kane. And the reason this occurs is because he has runners. And the fact that he's got runners, when we were talking about him last year and going, oh no, stay up higher the pitch, it's because he didn't have those runners. In this team, they do. Son always on his bike. Kulusevski always on his bike as well. Emerson at times as well. Here's a screenshot from the fourth goal, which again shows the sort of the aggressive attitude of Tottenham. Harry Kane is there. You can see him circled. And he just wants the ball. He wants the ball to feet. But at the same time, you've got all these runners going beyond. And when those runners go, it's just so hard to defend for any team because it creates space. Like, what are you going to do? Either you have one player who stays with him, but if he can get away with him, which often he can, you have all these runners and you have a big decision to make. And if you don't make the right one, then you're in big trouble. If you try and keep that high line, they can get in behind. If you drop deep, you're giving Harry Kane space and allowing the team to move up the pitch as well. So either way, it's really impressive from Tottenham. Despite only creating 1.57 XG, they took 18 shots. They're going to take so many more, and they're going to score so many goals this year. When it comes to Southampton, it felt a bit lost, if I'm honest, and maybe a bit of naivety in the transfer market with these young players coming through. I don't want to be that guy, but it has got to be a concern. But also Hassan Hutel, is he really getting what he wants, and is he providing any confidence to this team? He said, we are lacking of defending in and around the box, were his words to describe them. But he went with the back five because he was concerned about this team. But they just showed no width whatsoever. Djenepo dragged back, he got forward, and obviously when they did get forward, had a bit of impact. But it was a team that, for me, didn't really have any confidence or any sort of true knowledge of what they wanted to do to stop the opposition. For me, if you're going to play a back five, those two wing backs, number 2 and number 19, have got to get much further forward. They've got to be much wider for the team to help the team have that little bit of width to get themselves out of trouble. And defensively, it just feels like it's not bulletproof at all. There's, no true coverage there. There's no way of stopping what Tottenham want to do, partly because of those runners. And I think there was a concern there. You've got a back line that's trying to kind of stay strong, but it got dragged deep time and again. And it's just very easy to penetrate into these areas where Harry Kane was probably picking up the ball, and then easy to go round the sides as well, which is disappointing. As I say, get 19 here, get Kyle Walker-Peters, who did play higher up for the team at times as well, but also felt a little bit toothless up top. Tottenham had 34 touches inside the Southampton penalty area and successfully penetrated the box with passes 13 times. Of those 18 shots, 14 of those shots were inside the box. That is a problem. And that naivety and that lack of dynamism going forward is a big worry for me. Let's talk Chelsea, and good God, it was pretty boring from Chelsea, I've got to be honest. We've seen this with a few teams, but with the Chelsea side where you've got Chilwell and Reece James, there was a bit of a disappointment for me when it came to their average positions and more importantly, the width of this team. Ben Chilwell and Reece James should be providing that width. Now, look, Reece James is a little bit different. He had to go and play left wing back for around 70 minutes, so that's why he's a lot more narrower. But Chilwell kept kind of coming in. Now, I know this is quite common. We'll be talking about this with another game in terms of inverted fullbacks. But I wanted Chilwell to get further forward. And also the front three, for me, first of all, there's no real desire to sort of hurt the team and penetrate in zone 14. We've spoken about zone 14 before. Zone 14, I'll show you, here's a picture now. There are different zones on the pitch. Zone 14 is where a lot of goals come from and where you want to kind of get on the ball. And Mason Mount, we know, can do that. But in terms of where they were set up, the front three, and this front three is going to be crucial, and you would imagine that they should be able to dovetail much better. When we see the heat maps, there's not a real understanding of what each player wants to do. The only Chelsea player that made more than one pass into the Everton box was Raheem Sterling. They seemed a little bit toothless up top. Let me show you the average positions of these, the heat maps of these three guys. Raheem Sterling, Mason Mount, Kai Havertz. Let's start with Kai Havertz, staying on that left-hand side and then getting himself into the box. But then with Raheem Sterling, very close to him, you know, right alongside him. That's not totally going to be effective for the team. I know there was a focus down that left-hand side with Chilwell then getting to the byline for the team a lot of the times, but he didn't really get to the byline. So that's the problem for me, is you've got someone like Raheem Sterling who can make those great runs. Use him. You know, this could be the one problem, and I would like to see not Kai Havertz on the left-hand side. I'd like to see Raheem Sterling on that left-hand side because, and we did a video on Raheem Sterling, I think he could be much more danger in that position. Mason Mount hugged on that right-hand side, didn't get into that zone 14 that we were talking about. And I think that's something that Thomas Tuchel needs to find a solution, because in terms of knee-jerk assumptions, and I think this is coming from other people more so than myself, he's had a lot of forwards now, Tuchel, to get a tune out of, and hasn't really been able to get a tune out of any of them. So with that in mind, that needs sorting out pretty quickly. Now, I know there's a dearth of centre forwards out there right now, but you've got what you've got, make it work. On to Everton, and there are some positives for Everton because defensively, much, much better. Now, you know, yes, Chelsea were disjointed, but this was a team that conceded 66 goals last season. The XG in this game is 1.7, and 0.8 of that came from the penalty. So otherwise, pretty strong defensively. The big worry for Everton is going forward. You know, up top, you've got Anthony Gordon here. And if we go to the average positions, you think Anthony Gordon and Demarai Gray, 10 and 11 there. You think, okay, they're playing pretty central. You've got two centre forwards there. But then when you look at the heat map, in particular of Anthony Gordon, guys working up front, he's just picking up the ball on that left-hand side. So he hasn't got that physicality to sort of, you know, to get on the ball, stick his bum out and allow the team to move up the pitch. I think there were some nice little partnerships that I think will blossom as time goes on. Again, if we go back to those average positions, Dwight McNeil and Patterson. McNeil, you want to see him get that little bit further forward, but Patterson in particular, I thought was really, really positive. I think it's good that he's going to be starting matches for the team. 3 progressive carries, and he managed to keep a passing accuracy of 89% as well. So, not all doom and gloom. You know, you're going to play easier games than you are against Chelsea, but they need that focal point, be it Dominic Calvert-Lewin or another striker. Lampard said it himself, but if they get that, I'm confident they might just be okay, especially with Onana coming into the side. Newcastle United. Here's your knee-jerk prediction from me. Newcastle United to finish above Manchester United. We'll be talking about Manchester United in tomorrow's episode of The Fallout. As I said, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss that if you're a Man United fan, although you probably will want to miss it because, yeah, we'll get into that tomorrow. But Newcastle are on a European charge here if they play the way that they are, with the dominance, the personality, the positivity, the confidence that this side was showing. Yes, it's Nottingham Forest. Yes, they were humbled. We'll talk about them in just a second. But, I mean, wow. First of all, let's have a look at the momentum bar, which says everything that you need to know. The stats obviously back it up. Utter dominance from a Newcastle side that we think about the start of last season. It's just unbelievable, the change. Of course, a lot of money has facilitated that, but it's a very, very likeable team, if I'm honest. 23 shots, 10 shots on target, utter dominance, absolute utter dominance, 61% possession. It just looked really, really good. And you know who I'm going to talk about because the guy's gorgeous. He's a joke and he is a 6. We said on this channel, he is a 6. And people go, oh, yeah, well, he's more about scoring. Oh, hang on, let me do a Geordie accent. It's more about scoring goals league. Yeah, I can score goals league. Please don't unsubscribe. But the guy is a really good number 6. And first of all, average positions. Let's have a look at that. Nottingham Forest so deep. Newcastle so high up the pitch. Go back to the first episodes of the Fallout. It did not look like this. The fact that you've got every player apart from the back 2 in the opposition's half, your average position is astounding to me for Newcastle. Second part of it, and look, we've spoken about it twice, that single pivot, that linchpin and the circle that then comes around him because you've got players who are confident to go, yeah, you have it, I'll stay over here. Don't need any help. You know, and he also, importantly, you've got a midfielder who's happy to stand still and just get on the ball and pop the ball over people's heads. The guy's an absolute joke. Let's have a look at him in greater detail because his stats are just, honestly, disgusting. Disgusting. So this is the 6, this single pivot, playing in the opposition's half, playing this high up. Unbelievable. You know, think of your defensive midfield, you know, your playmaker. Then don't play in that position. They play in the centre circle. But Guimaraes is something special, I'm telling you. Playing under pressure, just 96 touches, 3 key passes, 7 shot-creating actions. Anything over 3 is amazing, just to put that into context. 10 progressive carries from a number 6. That's the output of a number 10. When it comes to progressive carries in that position, 2, 3 at most. 10 passes into the penalty area, 5. 1 or 2 normally. Again, because you're the guy who's probably the pass before the pass. Unbelievable. Partly down to Nottingham Forest, but partly down to this lad and his confidence. Exciting times for Newcastle. Let's see how they get on in the next few games against other teams with a bit more Premier League experience. Something's happening here. On to Nottingham Forest, and first and foremost, welcome to the Fallout. It's great to have you here. It's been a long time. I mean, you've never been here, but here you are. So let's not forget that. And it's, you know, it's just one game. Humbled, I think, is the word that I would use. Certainly against this Newcastle side, away from home, tough fixture first up. Is it a bit of Premier League experience? I think this was one where this was a team that was completely stunned. They are much better than this. They have better personnel than this, and they will get better than this. I remember QPR against Bolton when we went up. We lost 4-1. End of that season, Bolton went down. Bolton went down. We stayed up because we kind of found our feet after a while. And I think that's what will happen with Nottingham Forest. But they can't play this deep. They have to be braver. They have to get forward far more. And also, Brennan Johnson, his role needs to not be this. He's essentially playing, he's number 20 here. He's playing kind of as an advanced forward here, leading the line. And it was Surridge, number 16, who was the player who was dropping off. This is not what Nottingham Forest are about. You know, you've bought players with similar personnel. Our knee is a player who's going to kind of come in and then you can change that. But Brennan Johnson, when he was at his best, he was getting involved and going beyond, but he's also coming over here and helping the right wing back. Of course, it was Jed Spence. Yes, they were far more dominant in these games, but I still think you need to utilise Brennan Johnson in these roles. He only received 1 progressive pass in the whole 90 minutes. And I went Dutch there for a second, sorry. And he only managed 10 touches in the attacking third. That's not what you want from someone like Brennan Johnson. So allow him to come over to this side, allow him to get on the ball and put someone else up top to be that central striker. And I think when that happens, the whole team will be able to move up the pitch a little bit better. They won't be so deep, but they need to rectify that quickly. Welcome back, Bournemouth, as well to the Premier League. And the spirit of Tony Pulis lives on. That Stoke side is back. And it's wearing black stripes instead of white stripes. And we bloody called it. We called it on this channel. We said they're going to be physical, and we said they would play 5 at the back and they would get Kiefer Moore and Solanke up top. What happened, guys? What happened? Hit the bloody like button. That's what happened. Solanke, Kiefer Moore, 2 big guys up top. Okay, they're going to forget about the midfield this year. They're going to be ugly. It's going to be grim. but they're going to try and survive. Similar to Brentford, probably a bit more extreme than Brentford. And the fact that he wants to play a back three, or importantly a back five, is so clear from the fact that Jefferson Lerma, who actually scores a goal in this game, and I think that's an important thing to say as well, game state helped with this one. But to play Lerma as a right-sided centre-back shows that he's going with structure first, and then he will hopefully get those centre-backs through the door. Tavernier made his debut as well, which I quite liked his play. He offers that something a little bit different in terms of someone who can get on the ball. He made 3 successive dribbles in this game. 60% of his dribbles were successful. He's a bit more dynamic, but you've got some big boys in there. And that direct threat, that ability to bypass the midfield, will really help when it comes to the fact that you've got a really threadbare squad. It's going to be about those front three. Let them win their duels and see what they can do. The only concern is the XG was 0.5. But I think, again, looking at the Brentford model last year, they often had a low XG, but they often had an opposition with a very, very low XG as well. So it's one of those where if they can score some goals from set pieces, use the size that they've got, be a bit ugly and not concede too many, they are giving themselves a real chance, because in Solanke and Kiefer Moore, you've got 2 players that, regardless of quality against the opposition, will win aerial duels and will make life difficult. And the fact that you've got 2 of them up there gives you a real chance. On to Aston Villa. So disappointing for Aston Villa fans, especially with the players that have come through. The personnel is great. I'm not getting away from that, but that wasn't good enough. And creatively, it is underwhelming right now. Now, we said in the Prem guide, go check out the Prem guide if you haven't watched it, we were saying that both John McGinn and Jacob Ramsey need to be better in terms of passes completed. They were in the bottom 15% of the Premier League's midfielders last year. That's not acceptable, especially for players of that quality. Now, going into this game, we kind of saw that, and we don't want to be seeing that, right? Have a look at the average positions here. First of all, and I'll talk you through the stats of Jacob Ramsey and John McGinn. First of all, 41 is Jacob Ramsey. Too deep. Way too deep. That's not, if you close your eyes, you think, Jacob Ramsey, where's he going to get on the ball? You want him to get on the ball much higher up in this area of the pitch. 1 dribble. Not what he's about. He gets on the ball and he turns. 1 carry into the final third. 1 pass into the penalty area. Not good enough for Jacob Ramsey. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's clearly got the ability, but he's in the wrong spot there. And he needs to be a little bit braver in terms of getting forward. The fact that that's his average position isn't right, isn't acceptable for a team that was dominating the ball the way that they were. John McGinn on the other side, number 7, he was better in terms of getting on the ball, but his midfield progression wasn't good enough. 11 passes into the final third, which is fine. 7 progressive passes, but he only made 1 shot creating action, which totaled 0.1 expected assists, and didn't make a single key pass. And the problem you've got here is that these players are so integral for the front three. Kamara will give him a pass first game, and actually in terms of his position, he's there to protect the back 2 there that you've got. There's a Carlos and Konsa, but also he needs to get the ball and he needs players to play to. But there's this disconnect between the front 3 and those 2 attacking midfielders in McGinn, or side midfielders in terms of McGinn and Ramsey. And those 2 need to sort themselves out, or Gerrard needs to get the best out of them quickly. Otherwise, it will continue to be disjointed, disappointing, and they'll struggle creatively because they've got the personnel. So this isn't acceptable. After this performance, in terms of knee-jerk assumptions, I'm really worried about Aston Villa. They need to fix this quickly because this has been going on for way too long now. Leeds United, great win for Leeds United with injuries actually as well. And this team has Jesse Marsch written all over it. And in particular, the guy that embodies it all, Brendan Aronson. He is perfect for Jesse Marsch. I think he's very intelligent, but the work rate that he provides, and I think an important point for Leeds United is that they will really benefit from the 5 substitutes rule because they can just go in 5th gear, push, press. And in terms of presses, 188 pressing actions, the most in the Premier League over the weekend. Brendan Aronson himself made 31 pressing actions. And tactically, that 4-2-2-2, which you can't really see in front of you right now, it comes from, of course, your back 4, which you can see there. But then you've got the 2 midfielders. I'll show you their heat maps in just a second. It was amazing. Tyler Adams in particular. Remember that average position in terms of someone supposedly sitting there and playing central. That's not what Tyler Adams did. You had Rodrigo and Bamford up top, or looking to help out. Rodrigo does seem to have a goal in him, but those inverted wingers of Aronson and Harrison made it very, very difficult for Wolves in terms of where they were pressing. It was so deep for Wolves. Let me just show you that quickly. Because in terms of those play areas, deep down here, you see this bottom square here, back in that back left-hand corner, that was very clear, and that comes from Brendan Harrison, but also Wolves wanted to probably go down that left-hand side. I thought that was interesting. And then finally, as I said, with Tyler Adams, look, getting on the ball all over the place. Really like that about him, not just sort of sitting there. It's a very dynamic team here. Rocker as well, getting on the ball in different areas of the pitch. That double pivot for Leeds United could be really, really special this year and give them a really enjoyable mid-table season. On to Wolves, and Wolves scored 38 goals last year. Knee-jerk assumption is that they won't reach 38 this year. The problems with Jimenez, of course, being injured, Silva, I think, out on loan, don't have a striker, felt toothless, despite actually creating a lot of shot-creating actions. In terms of shot-creating actions, 24. And just for those of you wondering, that's the 2 offensive actions directly leading to a shot, such as passes, dribbles, and drawing fouls. 24. The XG from that, 0.6. To put that in comparison, Leeds United, 16 shot-creating actions, their XG was 1.3. So in terms of actually truly creating proper chances, having that lack of a focal point really, really hurt them. I also thought there's part of this that is down to Leeds and the way that they're pressing, but also I think they need to be that little bit braver. I'll be intrigued to see over the next few weeks if they're able to control games that little bit better against teams that don't press the way that Leeds do. But regardless, I think the tactic in this game was to sort of defend that little bit deeper to then hurt them down the other end, because they didn't have that proper striker. They had players who were mobile, let's say. But I think in Max Kilman and in Nathan Collins, you've got 2 good ball-playing defenders there. I think they need to be a bit braver, allow the team to push up a bit higher up the pitch, and just have a bit more chutzpah about them. It's just soaking, and it's boring. But it comes down to the fact that they don't have a striker. I think they have a striker, again, finally looking at that point one more time. There are those players that then you go, and it can be a centre forward, it can be a defensive midfielder, it can be an attacking midfielder. But if you have that player, then everyone can work around that player. They have that sort of force field about them. And I think these two have the quality to do that. That obviously comes down to these 2 midfielders as well. But without having that striker, it's going to be a very, very difficult season, and certainly a very difficult start for Wolves this year. So there you have it, guys. Part 1 of what we learned about every single team in the Premier League from the opening weekend. Join me tomorrow for the next episode, or if that's out, go click on it right now. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I'll see you next time.